Hey everyone, it's Fiona Aedgar, astrologer here. This is a video about the upcoming solar eclipse in Gemini, which is occurring at 11:52 a.m. tomorrow morning. That is UK time. If you're in the States, it's going to be happening very early morning, your time. So first of all, what is an eclipse? Eclipses bring in massive life changes in astrology. It's the kind of event that, like a birth, a marriage, a death, the end of something, the birth of something new, a new job, career, a house move, stuff like that, stuff that is long lasting. A regular new moon, of course, the effects only really last for a couple of weeks. But eclipses are something that is much more profound. So it's obviously happening in the sign of Gemini, which you can see here, connected with communication, our thought processes, how we think, how we absorb information. The interesting thing that I noticed is that the asteroid Odin, so everything that goes on in life is reflected in the sky. In the planets, that's how astrology works. The planets don't cause anything. They simply reflect the stuff that's been going on and the choices that we make. So I'm sure that if you're following me, you probably have heard me talking about the Wotanic consciousness quite a bit. That is because it is rising. And right, how can I put this in a way that's not going to get me banned from YouTube? So first of all, the needlecraft, to use a term that Thomas Sheridan created. Is the needlecraft a way to try and eliminate or exterminate the Wotanic consciousness? I don't know. Time will tell. Okay, but these guys that are in control of everything, the powers that be, the kind of overlords, they knew that we were going to have a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction in Aquarius. That was at the end of last year, beginning of this year, I can't remember. I am an astrologer, but I don't have a photographic memory, unfortunately. So astrologers knew that this was going to be a rise in consciousness. I mean, astrologers were talking about 2020 before, like for the last 20 years. Myself and other astrologers predicted the events of 2020 before they actually happened. The control system and all of that. You can go back. I did a podcast with the guys in Unslaved around before it happened. Predicted much of it. So just because the average person does not use astrology much anymore, these powers, these people, they have never stopped using astrology, and they knew that Saturn-Jupiter conjunction was symbolic of something, some elevated state of consciousness. So in Europe, it is the Wotanic consciousness. Here's the thing, that spiritual awakening among the people was never going to be like someone doing yoga on a hill on sunrise, being at peace with everything. Spiritual awakenings just don't happen that way. They are blood, sweat, and tears. It can be the most horrific time in your life, especially if you try to resist the changes. So you lose family, you lose friends, you lose your partner, whatever. But there's something, there's a good reason for this, and it's that consciousness is infectious. You're not supposed to be around people anymore that are lowering your consciousness. So that's what happens. Your life kind of falls apart, but then you get to rebuild it again. And then you become a much stronger and happier person. So Odin is everywhere, has been for a number of years now in the films, the media. Everywhere you go, you see his face, hear his name, or another archetype which is connected with the energy of Odin. So in this chart, we can see that Odin is in Cancer, the ruler of which, of course, is the moon, which is basically the eclipse, right? So this is continuing here for the next 6 months. We can see this rising. Is it going to affect everyone? No. It's not, because this is the sword of Wotan, which shows no mercy to the weak, the degenerate. You should never try and get in the way of that. I'm not trying to sound harsh here, but that's the kind of truth of it. There's no point in going around trying to save everyone from the needlecraft or whatever, because it's not going to work, right? You're in a different zone to them now. You just need to get on with it and let it happen. And I understand the difficulties with that, because some of my family members are getting this and going along with it. Yeah, of course, it's deeply upsetting, but you just have to let this run its course. Okay. So Venus in Cancer and Odin are both making a square to this object here, which is Chiron. Chiron is the archetype of the teacher, the maverick, the healer, the wise sage. That's going to be involved in your relationships on some level over the next several months. Maybe you meet someone like that. Maybe you become that and it causes your existing relationship to shatter. Okay, but you should always go seek the path of wisdom, not the path of comfort. Just be brave. We live in a society that is just so full of like cowards, people that will use like Bill Gates as gods instead of going into their ancestral gods, and disempower themselves. And monotheism being such a false system is why we are in this state, because people have turned their backs on their ancestral gods and they're lacking a lot of the qualities that our ancestors would have had. That is why following the wheel of the year is so important, right? The pagan wheel of the year, the solstices, the equinoxes, because when you do a ritual on those days, you're channeling the forces, the natural forces of that equinox or solstice into your own life, so that your life is in a constant state of progress. This is why I use Western tropical astrology, because it is a solar calendar that marks all of these holidays, right? Using some other form of astrology does not make sense to me as a pagan. So I'll just leave that there. So we're going to see a lot of stuff happening within the media, because of course that is connected with Gemini, the communication. The eclipse is making a square to Neptune, right? An applying square. Misinformation, the propaganda machine. Maybe you are in some kind of state of emotional confusion about an issue in your life that is connected with the eclipse. I am going to go over all of the signs individually, your rising and your sun signs, so you can get more of an idea of what to expect over the next several months with the eclipse. Of course, you should check your personal birth chart. That's where the true story is going to be. You need to know a little bit about astrology to do that. If you want to know what your rising sign is, you can go to this site, which is fantastic. I've been using it for like over 10 years. Astro.com. Stick in your birth details. It will draw up your chart for you. Your birth time must be accurate in order to get your rising sign, which is one of the most prominent parts in the chart. It's not a mask, like a lot of modern astrologers describe it as, which kind of infuriates me. It's not a mask. Everything else in this chart is filtered through the rising sign or the ascendant, which is the sign that was rising on the horizon at the exact moment of your birth. It acts as a lens. Okay, anything that crosses this in your transits brings big life changes. If it's an outer planet, so it's hugely important. It's your very identity. It's your physical body. It's not a mask. So do that and then find out where your rising sign is, so you can listen to this and get the bigger picture of what I'm saying here. But yeah, I mean, this is also connected with the past. Okay, this eclipse, because we have the moon here, and then we've got Odin, and we've got Venus in Cancer, which is connected with the past, your ancestors. Cancerians do think about the past a lot. I'm a Cancer, But I don't think about stuff that happened to me, like trauma or, I don't know, like relationships ending or whatever. I don't think about that at all, really. I try to think about my ancestors. I'm really interested in history and stuff like that. So the ancestors are rising, right? Through the Botanic energy, many of you are doing the rituals. So we actually have Odin World Prayer Day today, which is a day of ritual to honor Odin. So we are awakening our ancestor Odin within our own lives. That's why it's so important to do these rituals. That's why Christianity tried to extinguish them, or they stole them and tried to make them into something that was ineffective and completely unrelated. Well, Christianity is a false system. Well, I'm not going to rant about that here, but yeah, so you need to follow these rituals. If you have ancestral wounds, if there are issues within your family line that kind of repeat themselves, you can work those out by following the wheel of the year. Okay? It's like pushing the reset button on your life, on your DNA, as you go around this wheel. So it's so important. And it was like a gift that had been stolen from us by Abrahamics. Okay, so let us move on then. So I'm going to talk about the signs and check your sun sign, check your rising sign. I'm going to talk about them individually and how this is going to affect you, what you can expect. Okay. So Aries, I'll start with you because you're the first sign. You're the archetype of the warrior. So you express this botanic energy very well in your personal life, Aries, and also the way that you communicate. This is happening in your third house. It's your communication, your thought processes. So the solar eclipse is bringing a change in these areas. It's also connected with your siblings and your neighbors. As you are the warrior of the zodiac, Aries, you need to be careful that you don't express yourself a bit too much. Remember to be discerning about who you give your information to. Okay. So next we have Taurus, earth sign, the fixed earth sign, and the eclipse is happening in your second house. This is your finances. This is also changes that come to your values and your belief systems, your moral compass. Something is changing here for you, Taurus. It's actually blasting through your comfort zone. I know that Taurus people do not like a lot of change. They can be rigid. They can be quite stuck in their ways. So this is bringing you some well-needed change in the area of your finances. Maybe that archetype of Wotan is going to cause a big change in the way that you earn your money. Okay. Gemini, this is your eclipse. This is happening in your first house, which is connected to your identity, your physical appearance, your physical body, who you are. So you can expect changes to your very existence that are very deep and profound. Cancer, the eclipse is happening in your 12th house. So you're going to be dealing with issues connected to your subconscious. These can be fears that you have carried around for much too long. I have Cancer Sun, so I know all about that. What happens is when you go through trauma when you're a child, your subconscious will hide that so that you can function in a relatively normal way. But then what happens is that you start to project the fears in the external world around you. And you have the same situation following you over and over again. So this eclipse is going to bring some enlightenment within that area for you so that you can move on. Possibly you may be dealing with secret enemies again. You know, just those people that you don't really know about. They talk about you behind your back. People that are hidden in some way, that are not your friend. The positive side of this for Cancer is that you're going to experience increased spiritual abilities. Cancer's already spiritual and intuitive. When a Cancer tells you something, you should listen because they're usually right about these things. They're the most intuitive sign of the zodiac. Leo, the eclipse is happening in your 11th house of groups and friends. This is a time for you to get rid of the dead weight that you've been carrying around. It is an opportunity for you to truly manifest your hopes, your wishes, and your dreams. In order to do so, you need to take a good look at your friends and see which ones are kind of hindering you. Okay? Someone told me a long time ago, rock stars hang with rock stars. What does that mean? It means that if you want to get to a certain place in your life, the people around you need to match that. They need to match that energy or that frequency. Virgo, the eclipse is happening in your 10th house, your career, your public reputation. You may move jobs. There could be a big change in that area. You may be taking on roles that are more powerful, okay? And moving away from any role that is disempowering or insubordinate. Virgos need to push themselves more because they are so efficient. They work away behind the scenes. They don't take any credit. And then someone else comes along and takes the glory, okay? So Virgo, move away from anything that is kind of disempowering you that way. There could be a change in your marital status as well, because the 10th house is connected with that. Onto Libra, the eclipse is happening in your 9th house. This is your beliefs, your spiritual beliefs, religious beliefs, matters connected with the law and legal system. The Botanic energy is going to make you less likely sit on the fence in terms of your beliefs. So Libras they're known for sitting on the fence. They dither and they think about stuff and then they get wound up and full of anxiety because they don't know which direction to take. Well, the sword of Wotan is coming along and forging a path for you. So Scorpio, excuse me. The Botanic energy and the eclipse is transforming your 8th house. This is your joint income with business partners. This is your marriage. This is sex, inheritance. The Botanic energy is going to be rising through occult matters. Maybe you're starting to do rituals or something else that's empowering you. It's also connected with death. It may not be a literal death. It can be the death of your old self. You're transforming. The snake is shedding its skin. So very powerful for you, Scorpio. Sagittarius, the eclipse is happening in your 7th house of relationships, marriage, your partner. Potentially you could be finding a brand new relationship, Sagittarius. Okay, it could be the end of an old one. Not necessarily. You may have outgrown some old partnerships. This has happened to a lot of us over the last year because some of us have kind of spiritually evolved. The other person was in the same old energy, so the universe removed them. Not always. I mean, sometimes you just take different paths in life. It doesn't mean that one is more enlightened than the other. But it's a very common story over the last year, is that there were a lot of breakups. So Sag, if you're single, maybe meeting someone new. It's also connected with your clients. If you're a Sag that is self-employed, maybe you will have a new client base to work with. Capricorn, the eclipse is happening in your 6th house of your health, your daily schedule, your routines. You're going to have changes in those areas. Maybe you have health issues and you need to come up with a new regime to fix those or have surgery. It could possibly be connected with your bones or your teeth, okay? And maybe you get a new job and your schedule is suddenly dramatically changed. Aquarius, eclipse in your 5th house, changes with your children. Don't panic, doesn't have to be a bad thing. The 5th house is also connected with creativity, romances. So you could potentially be expressing the archetype of Wotan through your music, through your artwork, or some other creative endeavor. So it doesn't have to be something like that. It can be something like a new business, which takes a certain degree of creativity to make that. So Pisces, the eclipse is happening in your 4th house. So something quite mundane is that you could move. You could move home, move residence. You may notice changes within your family and your home. You may forge a deeper connection with your roots and your ancestry, because this part of the chart, the cusp of the 4th, the IC is connected with your ancestral lines. So maybe you're doing some work on that, you're uncovering some issues, you're noticing patterns within like family, family curses or whatever, that type of thing. And you're working through those by following this wheel of the year, the solar calendar. One other possibility is that when you have an eclipse in the 4th, it will be connected with motherhood and pregnancy. So that's it for the signs. Like I say, check your rising sign and check your sun sign. But in a nutshell, what I see from this eclipse is that the ancestors are rising. Okay. So you need to focus on that. You need and try and focus on personal issues, stuff that's internal. Work on healing wounds in your line, because if you don't, they keep repeating with every generation. Okay, and then what happens is, what has happened is that we live in a society full of deeply wounded and broken people. Okay, and these people, they know that, they rely on that so that you don't rise up and you don't question anything. Okay, so focus on that. Try and stay away from a constant doom and gloom within the media. Okay, I don't watch anything in the media anymore. I don't read any mainstream news. I don't even really read any so-called alternative news, except for a few bits and pieces here and there, because it's a distraction. It's a distraction from the real work that we all need to be doing at the moment. And also it really affects you in a physical way. It affects your physical body to be constantly looking at negativity. It's not about being fearful of the truth. All right, I'm not fearful of the truth at all, but I don't want to be feeling bad all the time, which is what negative news does to you. And it also will affect your health and your energy levels and just will make you feel drained. Okay, so there probably are going to be some big stories that hit, I would say, pretty big ones over the next several months, potentially over the next few days with the eclipse happening. I don't know what those are going to be, okay? But with Gemini, it is about the media and about communication. It's a really good time to do any kind of writing, poetry, podcasting. Those are really favored during this eclipse, simply because of the nature of Gemini, which is to communicate in many different ways, many different forms. So I hope this helps you. I know it's been a long time since I made one of these videos. I'm just really busy all the time with my clients and my students. I am a teacher of astrology. You can check out my website, FionaEdgar.com. I can teach you to read a birth chart, even if you have zero knowledge of astrology. And I am fully booked for students until the end of the year, but I'm taking on students for next year. If that's something that you'd like to do, you'd need to kind of get in soon with that. As for regular readings, I'm fully booked until September. So if you want to get one of those before the end of the year, you would need to book in soon. That's it, guys. I hope you're all doing well. I love you all, and I will be back again soon.